We talk a lot about the financial steps you need to take in order to buy your first home. But in this week's episode of the Homeowner Prep podcast, we're going to talk about the mental mindset you need to have as a future homeowner. Hello and welcome to the Homeowner Prep podcast. I'm your host, Eric Halan, and this podcast was created to provide real-world advice and accountability for first-time homebuyers. We'll be interviewing industry experts, providing some how-tos, and talking with first-time homebuyers about their personal experiences. If that sounds interesting to you, please be sure to subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the little bell to be notified when new episodes release. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Homeowner Prep podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in this week as we talk about the mental mindset you need to have as a future homeowner. I know as we do other episodes week in and week out, we talk with, professionals or homeowners, or, we're kind of giving you advice as to what you need to do and the steps that are required in order for you to buy your first place. But in this week's episode, I really wanted to dive into the mental mindset of a future homeowner, because I think it's important that you not only have the finances together, but that you're ready mentally to become a homeowner. And so we'll probably break this up into two parts because I want to give you some information, but I don't want to overload you just in one episode. But it's important that you understand this. I often say that you become a homeowner long before you buy your first place. And what I mean by that is, the way that you treat your current home, wherever you're living, is how you're going to treat your house. And it's important because when you own real estate, you own an asset that can appreciate or it can depreciate depending on how much you value that asset. And so, I want to make sure that before you actually get the keys to your first place, you're mentally prepared for all the things, all the steps it's going to take, being ready mentally to actually become a homeowner. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is the idea that before you own, you have to believe. Any idea first starts out in your mind, right? And so the idea, whether you wake up one day or whether you've been kind of planning and some things fall into place, but the idea of you becoming a homeowner has to start in your belief. You have to believe that it's possible. You have to believe that it's for you. And sometimes you have to combat the disbelief of said maybe friends or past generations, or what I call generational curses of, everybody in my family has rented, and you really have to escape the rent trap. But again, that starts here in the mind. I can't become a homeowner until I can see it as a possibility. And a story that I want to share, when we bought our first place, me and my wife, the crazy thing is I was in real estate and I didn't even have the mindset to think that it was possible for me to own at that time. We were, young family, and we were just kind of getting things together. And the first person to have the belief was my wife. She was like, hey, we need to buy a house. We can do it. I'm going to talk to some folks. And she started reaching out to loan officers and just having conversations to figure out what we need. And the truth is, we were ready to go. We didn't realize it, but we were. And so obviously, we had to get some things in order and just kind of gear up and get ready. But we were a lot closer than I thought was possible. And this comes up, it's pretty common. When we sit down with couples or families and we go over finances and talk about, what are the desires and where are you at and how can we get you to where you want to be, chances are you're closer than you think. Folks are typically a lot closer than they believe possible. And so, that's why I wanted to start out with point number one being that you have to believe it. You have to see it. Somebody in your corner has to see you as a homeowner. Start calling it out, words of affirmation, whatever the case may be. But you are a homeowner. You can be a homeowner no matter your circumstances, no matter what's going on. You can get some things in order, and it all starts with just, having a plan. And we'll kind of talk about that and how we can help you with that later on. But you have to believe, and that's definitely step number one. Step number two is, you have to start thinking long term. The biggest issue that I see with, renters or people who are stuck in this rent trap is that they think very short-sighted. They're looking at, hey, home prices are too high. That's a typical issue that we have, especially here in California. And I say, well, where do you expect them to be in 5 years? Where do you expect them to be in 10 years, 20, right? So if we're expecting them to go higher and higher and higher, when is the best time for you to buy? When they're now worth $100,000 more that you're paying, or now, and so you really have to have this belief that says, hey, I need to get in while I can. I need to think about the long term and where prices are going, or, where am I going? You just have to really start to set some plans in motion to say, where do I want to be 10 years from now? Versus, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to have my job this year. You never know if you're going to have your job, right? Job security is a myth. And so it's about getting in the game as quickly as you can, smartly, and a home that you can afford, and to kind of get that ball rolling. So yes, you have to, one, believe, but two, you really need to start thinking long term and putting a plan together that's going to help you and your family. Think about future generations. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about legacy, and so it's not just about you and the here and now. It's really about what decisions are you making now that are going to help you down the road and help your future generations succeed down the road. You may think, well, hey, I'm gonna go to Vegas and I might spend $1,000. Okay, but was it really $1,000? I mean, what's the future opportunity cost of that $1,000? If I took that $1,000 and I put it in the S&P 500 for the next 25 years, what's the return on that? Start thinking about these things, and it'll help you, because you'll start to say, okay, a dollar is not just a dollar. A dollar is what in the future? What will this dollar be worth? What can I invest it in? What will the home be worth that I buy, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? You have to be thinking about those things. And I bring this up at a time where we're in a challenging market. We know that home prices are high right now. We know that interest rates are up right now. And as we think long term, I often tell clients, hey, we're going to marry the house and we're going to date the rate. Yes, interest rates are high. They're not always high, and it's a relative high, right? You could talk to somebody who bought a home in the 80s and they say it's not high at all, when interest rates were double digits. But relatively speaking, when we just came out of the 2s and 3%, now we're in the 6%, people are going to say, well, hey, interest rates are high. So the rate is high now. Can it come down in the future? Well, if the answer is yes, then, maybe that's an opportunity for you to buy the house that you want. You date the rate. When the interest rate changes, you refinance into a better rate. A lot of folks who took advantage of the 2 and 3% were refinancing. It wasn't all just purchasing at 2 and 3%. In fact, it was very tough to purchase at those prices. But there was a lot of refis being done. A lot of folks were coming out of, 7%, 8%, and refining into a 2 and 3%. So interest rates change. Marry the house, date the rate, think long term. The third point I want to make is another mindset shift. And this one is very personal. You have to, take this and really receive it. But you have to overcome your excuses. You tell yourself excuses every day about where you're at, why you're there, and why you can't succeed and get to your goals. And so a lot of times when we sit down with clients and families and we're talking about finances, if there's a married couple, they have two different beliefs about money, two different backgrounds, different, upbringings. And so, there's different excuses there as to why they can't get to where they want to go. And so we just shed a little light. We say, hey, yeah, that may have been your generation before. That may have been an old way of thinking, but here's where we're at and here's where we're going. And so we really have to have this mindset that no matter how hard the path, I'm going to get through these excuses. I'm going to battle my way through, and I'm going to reach my goal. Now, there's time frames, right? Maybe you don't reach that goal in 2022. Maybe you don't reach it in 2023. But you can mark this day as the day you got started. The day you overcame the obstacle and the excuse of just saying it's not possible, right? So when you say something is not possible, it just turns your mind off. You don't have a mindset of thinking about solutions. You just accept the lie that you've told yourself. However, if you are willing to say it is possible in timing and with a plan, I will get there, right? That's the best thing you can do to take the first step. And so, just overcome that, whatever the excuse or the lie that you're telling yourself, whether it's interest rates are too high, home prices are too high, I don't make enough money, I don't have the credit, whatever it is, overcome that excuse and just get started. And in order to get started with Homeowner Prep, you can visit our website at homeownerprep.com/start, no matter where you're at. If you're not ready, if you're getting ready, if you're already ready, you just, you need to connect with a real estate agent or a loan officer, we can help you. No matter where you're at, we can help you. So visit our website, homeownerprep.com/start. And also, if you just have a quick question you just want to send over to us that we can answer for you and just help you overcome an excuse or, this lie that you're telling yourself, feel free to reach out to us. We're on all social media platforms. We tend to get our questions and direct messages on Instagram at Homeowner Prep. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm going to leave it there for now in this part 1 of this series, but I really want you to focus on the mindset. This is important. I know we talk about process. I know we talk about finances and budgeting and things of that nature, but your mindset is very important. Otherwise, if you carry this old mindset into a new home, you'll quickly find yourself back to where you started. And so we want to make sure that you're prepared mentally for home ownership. And that's why we've created Homeowner Prep. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I hope you got some value from this week's episode. I hope I answered some questions for you. I hope I shed some light on some things and really made you think about where you're at and why you're there and how you can move forward. If you have any questions, reach out to us. And I look forward to providing you with some great content on next week's episode, where we continue on to part 2 of this mental mind shift, if you would, of becoming a future homeowner. Until then, be blessed. I hope you got some value from today's episode. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this show, be sure to share it with them. And if you're listening to the podcast, we'd love for you to drop us a review. We'd also love to hear from you if you have any questions. So reach out to us on Instagram at HomeownerPrep. Who knows, we may read your review and answer your question on one of our future shows.